Well, a new study has come out saying that, showing that more than half of Americans, just barely half of Americans, view capitalism favorably, while showing that Democratic voters increasingly prefer socialism, according to a poll that was done by Gallup. This was, a week or so ago. I'm a little bit behind on this, but I felt that it was still something that was worth mentioning. Now, this is not really to be unexpected, that showing that, just barely half of Americans view capitalism favorably. Well, I mean, look at what's going on. Rents are out of control. Wages have completely stagnated. Food prices are going off, no matter how much Donald Trump said that he would do something about them, and essentially hasn't. The trade tariffs that he has put on various countries are harming the domestic U.S. economy and causing even more problems. Actual income inequality is getting absolutely worse and is driving even more people into poverty, as well as a lack of healthcare and education. So, yeah, if you counted all of those things together, then you could see why people wouldn't really have a very favorable view of capitalism. But you do have to understand that Americans don't exactly know what socialism is. So you kind of have to keep that in mind when you talk about how they prefer socialism over capitalism. They don't really know what they're talking about. Now, this was a poll that showed just 54% of respondents had a positive opinion of capitalism. And apparently, according to Gallup, this was the lowest since they began tracking opinions of capitalism since the early 2010s, when approval was at 61%. Support for socialism remained largely unchanged at 39%. So 39% of Americans have a support for socialism. But I say again, it's not like they know what socialism actually is. Now, of course, Republicans continue to back capitalism at 74%. So 74% of Republicans back capitalism. That's not a surprise. Not really. Now, among Democrats, approval for capitalism has slipped to 42%. And Democratic support for socialism has climbed to 66%, up from 50% in 2010. Now, I think that the problem here is that they think socialism is when Bernie Sanders talks. They think socialism is when government does stuff. I mean, that tends to be the great irony, that both liberals and conservatives in the United States both think that socialism is when the government does stuff. So if you got a universal healthcare system managing to catch up with the rest of the modern world, that would mean that's socialism, that America would be a socialist country now. I mean, that's complete nonsense. Yeah, a universal healthcare system is a part of socialism, but it does not define what socialism is. That's like saying a bad guy with a gun and a good guy with a gun are both the same thing because they have a gun. It's a complete non sequitur. It doesn't make any sense. But both sides really, Republicans in general, really seem to really believe that. But they both believe that when the government does something, that's socialism. Like if you had a welfare program, that's socialism. It's not. It's when you remove capitalism, remove the profit motive, remove the market, remove private industry, and replace it with a state-run entire economy, not based on profit, not based on the anarchy of the market. So they really don't know what they're talking about. And to further that point, the poll goes on to show that while Americans broadly, like either side, approve of free enterprise and small business, the opposite of what socialism is. So that literally just proves my point that they don't know that particular liberals do not know what socialism is. Because if they support free enterprise and small business, they're not supporting socialism. They have literally no idea what it means. But their views of large corporations have dropped sharply from 58% in 2012 to a record low of 37% this year, and for very, very good reason. Them screwing absolutely anyone and everyone they can get their hands on, particularly with regards to housing. And it's Democrats the most who have expressed hostility towards big tech, big pharma, and other corporate sectors, with only 17% of them viewing them positively. So the big corporations, the big particular industries, only 17% of Democrats actually viewed them favorably, which in my view, how could you view them favorably at all, given everything that they've done? So, I mean, yes, there's really only just barely half of Americans view capitalism favorably, according to this Gallup poll, but that's really an oversimplification because it's far more complicated than that. The You do have to understand that both sides of that don't know what socialism is. They can be angry at what capitalism does, but they have no concept of what the actual alternative is. And that definitely does skew this poll to a great degree, if you ask me.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.